So, Keith, the emotional intelligence thing has been thrown around for a few years, and especially recently, we're hearing a lot about it within the IH and the EHS profession. So when I say emotional intelligence or EI or EQ, what does that really mean to you?
And that's a great question. It's a term that's been kind of grasped onto recently, but I first started hearing about emotional intelligence back in 2006 was my first exposure to it. So it is a long concept. However, it's really seemingly taken a hold in the health and safety world right now, as we look at what the effect of emotional intelligence is on workplace and safety standards. So emotional intelligence is fundamentally our capacity. There's kind of 4 quadrants. The first quadrant of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, our ability to understand how we're occurring to other people. We kind of go through life and we judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their behaviors. But our ability to align our intentions and how those intentions are being perceived is a big part of what emotional intelligence, that's the basis for it. So awareness of how I occur to others, awareness of how I'm feeling. One of the ways that we say it is overall, emotional intelligence is just about developing an emotional vocabulary. The more distinctions we can create, the more self-awareness we can draw. Just as we age and as you're a little kid, and all you do from an emotional standpoint, you cry. If you're frustrated, hungry, sad, angry, you just cry. And then as you develop more language and more distinctions, your self-awareness starts to develop, and you're able to create these distinctions among hungry versus starving versus, I'm a little frustrated or a little bit angry or whatever, and we gain more control over those distinctions. So that's the first quadrant. Now the second quadrant of emotional intelligence is our ability to manage ourselves. So first we become aware of our emotions, then we become able to manage those emotions. And so, in this group, one of the many tools that was available was, just looking at kind of how you take responsibility in a situation. Because one of the ways that we live in a victim state from an emotional intelligence standpoint is by thinking things are happening to us. So, third quadrant moves into the realm of awareness of others. So once I've got self-awareness and ability to manage my own emotions, now I can learn to develop more awareness of how others are experiencing whatever's happening for them. And so, great questioning techniques and really empathizing with people, the ability to connect at a new level. And then lastly is management of others' emotions. So our ability to then influence and affect people as far as their state, their mental state, their emotional state, and our ability to then drive that and create results within others becomes the fourth quadrant of excellence in emotional intelligence. So the 4 quadrants.
I think we would probably all agree there's dozens of books and resources and publications out there, and we could probably dive into all of them and spend years trying to figure out emotional intelligence. I think how you just summarized it right there is as clear as I've actually ever heard it explained.
Well, I appreciate that. I stole that from somebody else, so thank you. I'm glad.
You did a really good job.
I'll pass that along.
They must have been really good, and you did a good job stealing it from them in detail.
Thank you.
So, within the world of EHS, I really think, and you would totally agree with this, and anyone on camera would agree with this, the emotional intelligence piece is so crucial to what we do, because emotional intelligence is truly tied to engaging with other people. The people we're responsible for their health, their safety, their well-being, the people that we signed up, some of us recently, some of us many years ago, to protect. And so when it comes to the world of EHS, we'll say business results. What impact does emotional intelligence have on business results, specifically EHS business results?
So this is an enormous, you once said to me, sometimes in this work, what happens as professionals is that the very people that we were designed to protect, the very people become the problem, right? And, we become, in this type of an industry, we're looking at data, we're looking at process orientation, we're looking at very mechanical elements of doing a job that ultimately is still about a human, right? So think about this. Belief precipitates behavior, right? So if I don't believe something is important, I'm not going to do it. If I don't believe it's worth doing, I'm not going to do it, right? Well, our ability to communicate with another human being is going to impact their belief system. So as an EHS professional, just imagine if that person thinks all you care about are the numbers, all you care about is getting, a perfect score on your, whatever your checklist is, right? And they don't believe that you care about them, they're less inclined to even engage with you. Furthermore, if they don't have a belief of why these practices are important to their well-being, what the actual impacts are, then they're not going to want to engage in them anyway, which is going to in turn drive issues with your results. This is the most human of all professions I can think of. I mean, because our health, our well-being is going to more directly dictate the quality of life than anything else that we experience, right? And so the ability to connect with people, to drive beliefs, to shift your own beliefs, first of all, in your self-awareness and your self-management, then shift your ability to be aware of others and impact others, is going to lead to a very different level of results. And think of it this way too. We're always focused on what you need to do to get the result. What do I need to do to be safer? But what if we created a culture in which safety was the identity of the organization? Then the very people who were once a problem become the instrument of the solution. They become on the front line. They're now sharing ideas, acting, looking out for each other, behaving differently culturally. We shift towards a culture of safety. That becomes our identity. Now we're generating solutions automatically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's brilliant. And speaking of borrowed content, so that came from Sidney Dekker. He's been preaching that for years, and he says it's a real simple shift from people as the problem to shifting to truly people as the solution. The people who have been building the products, whether it's for days, months, weeks, but most of them for years, they truly are going to understand the hazards and the highest level of risk. Right. So they truly are the solution. And
that's brilliant.
Versus just observing from afar, it's engaging very closely. Right?
And that requires advanced emotional intelligence.
Well said. Yep, spot on. So now I want to take the next step in this, because I'm guessing all of the folks watching online are like, okay, I get this totally makes sense, this is perfect, this is beautiful. What's the how, right? How do I keep hearing about this emotional intelligence, and I get its critical importance for me to protect people and for me to engage people so I can therefore better protect them. So what would be the how if people are going to tackle something like emotional intelligence?
So we'll do this rapid fire and give you some resources to seek, okay? So the first quadrant that we worked with in our presentation was self-awareness, right? So how do I become aware of what my current state is? I'm going to look at my language, and ultimately this is Tony Robbins speaks to this as far as emotional state. That's all we're talking about, is what is your current emotional state from an emotional intelligence standpoint. And it's composed of three cornerstones: focus, language, and physiology. We find what we focus on. So if I'm focused on what's wrong, if I'm focused on what should have been versus what is, what didn't happen when it was supposed to, anything like that, I'm going to be creating a focus that's going to create a negative emotional state. So how do I shift my focus? I do it through my language. I gave him the example upstairs, and we said, one of the most common states that deters quality of work is being sick or being tired. Right? So when I am sick and tired, and I'm living into I am sick and tired, my focus is I am sick and tired, and it's all based on what's wrong. I want to shift that. So what do I need to be to still perform at the highest level when I'm sick and tired? I need to be tough, I need to be strong, I need to be resilient. So if I change my language into these areas, I am tough, I am strong, I'm resilient, I'm now shifting my focus. John Maxwell said that the most important work in this country is done by people who are sick and tired. Right? So when we were talking about becoming peak performers and enhancing our emotional intelligence, can we shift our state? And the last one is just our physiology, how we carry ourselves, how we breathe. I gave them the 4-7-8 breathing method in the room, which you can look up online. So 2 resources would be look up Tony Robbins and his 3 cornerstones of state, and then go ahead and look up the 4-7-8 breathing method. And those are just quick tools to help develop some self-awareness, just as an example.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I think it's time we're going to bring it to a close, and I really want to make this point. Perry Logan, who's been a dear friend of mine and a mentor, and he's now the global EHS director for a very large company in 3M locally.
Great man.
And he is a great man. And him and I are sitting in the back during your talk, and he looks at me and he says, and he's almost getting a little emotional at this point, he says, there's no question in my mind that this talk, the result of it are going to be saved lives. And there's no question about that, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to be here with us, to be here with the profession. And I promise you, I'm not just saying this, I promise you, because of you being here today, and because of you pouring into this profession, I promise you that lives will be saved because of your efforts today. So thank you for that.
Well, I can share with you my life is better for today. It was a really special group to get to be with. And so to all the folks out there doing the work that you do, thank you for taking on a new challenge and growth to be even better at what you do, which is keeping people safe and healthy.